This week's episode of our show has been sponsored by Fables and their first adventure, The Citadel of the Unseen Sun.
This Fables adventure is now coming to life in a physical form as 6 hardcover books, which will be crowdfunded on BackerKit.
These adventures have been written by some amazing talent in the industry, including James Hake and yours truly as contributing to it, and it is suitable for characters of 1st all the way up to 13th level, exploring the dark vampire-ruled realm of Astoya.
This series features over 500 pages of content, over 40 monsters, as well as all the maps and tokens that you need to run the adventures.
Follow the links in the description below. The hardcover books are launching at the end of November.
And now, on to this week's episode.
Greetings! My name is Monty Martin.
And I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And we are the Dungeon Dudes. Welcome to our channel where we cover everything D&D, including advice for players and guides for GMs.
We upload new videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so that you can be up to date on all of our content.
And a big thank you to all of our patron supporters for helping make our work possible. More about how you can support the channel at the end of this episode. But for today, we're taking a look at how to play a Commando. This is a multi-class character build that combines the Ranger and the Rogue into an amazing damage dealer, infiltrator, and skill expert.
The Ranger and Rogue synergize really well together because they are both dexterity-based classes that excel with finesse and ranged weapons. That already gives you a great basis for multi-classing these two classes. But as they diverge and have their differences, those differences actually continue to complement one another as they grow. So today we're going to look at how we're going to adjudicate our ability scores, what races, class features, feats, and spells we would use to complement this Ranger-Rogue hybrid.
There's a lot to discuss today, so let's get rolling.
So why would we want to play a Ranger-Rogue multiclass? The goal with this character is to start off with 5 levels of Ranger, and then you are going to take Rogue from there on out. What we're hoping to achieve with this is a great damage-dealing character who is also excellent in exploration, infiltration, and stealth. Ambushing is the name of the game here. They're going to have great ranged damage dealing as well as being able to pull on all the aspects of the Ranger and the Rogue for great mobility, combat, stealth, infiltration. All of these elements are going to be in play at the same time to make a well-rounded character who can help in almost any pillar of play.
But in particular, this character is going to have an explosive first round of combat, and depending on the choice of your Rogue subclass, you can assassinate targets in the surprise round, dealing a ton of damage to a single target right off the bat at range. The core of this build, of course, is going to be the Gloomstalker Ranger in particular, because we really want to have that Dread Ambusher feature. We want to get extra attack by taking 5 levels. And then we're going to pair that with some of the Rogue class features, particularly some subclass features, but also things like Cunning Action, and the fact that the Rogue gets sneak attack and actually is going to give us more meaningful damage increases as we get into those higher levels of play than what we would get from playing a Ranger. We've often talked about on this channel how the even with the changes to the Ranger class, it's really, really tempting to multi-class after 5 levels of Ranger. And this is the build that kind of shows why that's really, really good. And we've seen it firsthand as well with a shout out to our player Jill, who plays Veosenya in our Dungeons of Drakkenheim campaign, who basically this is her build. So we might be getting a little bit of commentary from her throughout the rest of this episode.
Lastly, this build involves a lot of skill proficiencies and expertise, which is something that we're going to see as we build it up. You get to be that sort of skill junkie, and the expertise really is helpful. And now that Rangers have an option to gain expertise, as well as some subclass options that even amplify that further, as well as Rogues having expertise, really kind of takes this up a notch to be really good at a lot of different skills.
So let's kick things off with the actual ability scores. It's important to note that when we're multi-classing Ranger and Rogue, we will need a dexterity score of at least 13, but we will also need a wisdom score of at least 13 as well. So those are 2 requirements in order to make this build work at all. To that end, as we're going to be building this character as a ranged attacker, we're going to have all the dexterity-based stuff. We're going to drop all those points we can into dexterity. We're going to max that out at 15, get that as high as we possibly can as soon as possible. That conversely means that we do not care about strength at all, so we're not going to put any points there.
Now, next to this, I do think that we want a pretty robust character. They are going to be a combatant, and even though they are going to be steering towards ranged combat, we want them to be able to stand up in the thick of it if they need to. So I think the Constitution is going to be our next most important attribute, and I think we should give a 15 there as well. After that, we got to go with Wisdom, because we do need at least a 13, but I think bumping it up just a little notch higher and giving it a 14 is going to help us out a lot.
That leaves us with 2 points left over. We could put that into Wisdom and do the 15, 15, 15, 8, 8, 8, but let's put 2 points into Intelligence. And we are a gruff, mean commando, and so we're going to have a Charisma score of 8. So before any of our racial ability score increases, we have Strength 8, Dexterity 15, Con 15, Intelligence 10, Wisdom 14, and Charisma 8. When we go into choosing our character Ancestry, if we're using the flexible ability score increases, I would probably put my increases into Dexterity and Constitution, although depending on what actual race you choose, you might want to adjust these points a little bit, depending on exactly what you're planning from here on out. But I think for us, that's what we're going to lock into. What races could we consider for this character?
I think that there's a lot of really great options here. I'm going to tip my hat off to Jill, who plays a Tabaxi.
Yeah.
And I do think that the mobility, the climb speed, there's a lot of great features that the Tabaxi has that really complement this build overall.
I agree. I think the Tabaxi is a fantastic choice, although I do think that the custom lineage and the variant human are super here. Just playing a variant human alone, you can put your 2+1s into Constitution and Dexterity, get 16s both in each, grab that Sharpshooter feat right off the bat, and you don't have to worry that humans don't get Dark Vision because Gloomstalker Ranger is going to give that to us. On the same token, though, if your Dungeon Master will allow it, playing an Aarakocra or an Owlin is going to be awesome. Because then you're going to fly, you're going to have the dexterity and con bonuses that you need. And yeah, I'll say that your Dungeon Master might regret allowing you to play one of these if you do play a bird person, but it's great. If the fly speed with the ranged attacks is amazing.
I also think just as a classic trope, this character feels really at home with an elf or half-elf. Both of those, I just picture those as like stealthy sort of assassin type characters. And so I think that both work really, really well here. Really, though, with the custom lineage options in Tasha's, if we didn't mention your favorite ancestry or race to play, the answer is that you can probably play them, and really, you're going to be fine.
So with our ability scores and our race chosen, any background you want is going to work here, but we're going to start off at first level as a ranger, and we're going to take 5 levels in that class before we multi-class. This is going to give us a couple important things off the bat and a couple choices. First of all, at first level, I recommend exchanging the Natural Explorer class feature for the Deft Explorer class feature, which is going to give you Canny, which is actually a very long-winded way of saying you get an expertise. I think that's a great trade-off. It's one of the optional class features here. And so we're going to have that extra skill expertise that's going to get really juicy once we get the extra rogue proficiencies added in here as well.
At second level, you're going to be able to get a fighting style, and for us, we think that the best play here is to go with the archery fighting style, and we're going to be using a bow or crossbow later. But I will say that you can actually go a lot of really cool directions for roleplay purposes. The dual wielder is pretty neat, but for us, I just think that the best option here has to be archery.
Now, at third level, we're going to get to choose our subclass, which is going to be Gloomstalker Ranger. This is going to give us a lot of really important features. Most notably, it's going to give us Dread Ambusher, which is going to allow us, which is a huge package of stuff. We're going to be able to make an extra attack during the first round of combat, which does extra damage on a hit. We're going to gain Dark Vision, and we're going to be invisible in darkness to any creature that relies on Dark Vision to see us. This is a feature that should not be forgotten because it's incredibly powerful, and it basically means that your Gloomstalker is invisible much of the time to almost all enemies as long as there's no light in the room. So you're almost always going to be wanting to knock out all the light sources or keep to the darkness, because then you got advantage on all your attacks, which is going to be super good once we become a rogue.
We will talk about other feat options later, but for the 4th level pick, if you aren't playing the variant human, in which case you got your feat at 1st level, and you did take the archery fighting style that we are talking about, you need to take sharpshooter for this character build. That has to be your choice, so we aren't even going to wait till the feats section of this video, just at level 4.
Yeah.
Sharpshooter is a class feature of this build. Take it.
Yeah, and then at 5th level, we're going to grab extra attack, and we're going to have already at this point an explosive opening for this character with Sharpshooter sending off 3 attacks, just taking out whatever the biggest, most scariest enemy is in the room here. As a ranger, we're also going to be able to pick a very small number of spells. We're actually only going to get 4 spells known total, of which at the very most, I think only 3 of them could be 2nd level spells. So what spells do you think you would take on the ranger side of things?
Again, a nod towards Jill, who makes excellent use of Zephyr Strike. Zephyr Strike is a great spell available to rangers, and it may seem redundant with a lot of the class features and abilities that we have already. But what's really interesting is if you ever do watch our live play and Jill's playing Veo Senya, you'll notice that she fills in a lot of gaps by using Zephyr Strike to just shore up her ability to deal the damage she needs to when the opportune moments happen. It actually is something that I thought would be more niche than it is, but Jill has proven that it is invaluable. This spell gives you extra speed, gives you advantage on an attack, and you don't trigger opportunity attacks while you move. So Zephyr Strike can actually give you a lot of mobility options for a character who doesn't want to be stuck surrounded by enemies, and allows you to then get into the position you need to and fire with advantage at your foes.
This character is going to have a lot of options for what to do with their bonus action, but Zephyr Strike is kind of one of those things where all the other features make you choose between extra speed, getting advantage, and not provoking opportunity attacks, but casting Zephyr Strike gives you all of those things with one bonus action, and that can be really clutch in the right circumstances. I was really surprised as a game master how often this is a beneficial spell to cast. That said, I do think Hunter's Mark is a great default to bring along, and I think that adding Entangle to the Ranger spell list in Tasha's is another really clutch pick for 1st level spells. For 2nd level spells, the classic here is to grab Pass Without Trace, to just be the ultimate stealth character. It's hard to argue with it, and I think it's pretty essential. That said, the other sort of skill augmentation spell is Enhance Ability, which can be really, really interesting when combined with all the expertise this character is going to have for being that excellent explorer, skill user type character.
I think a great addition from Tasha's is Summon Beast. This just gives you the ability to throw another body on the board, and as a ranged combatant, being able to put a meat shield summon between you and your enemies is extremely useful, not only for you, but for the whole party. So I love Summon Beast on this character because you get to send the beast forward while you hang back and fire your arrows into the fray.
That said, we're not going to be able to upcast Summon Beast, so your beast at higher levels of play is going to get geeked pretty easily because it's not going to have a lot of hit points. So if you're looking for extra damage, I do think at higher levels, Hunter's Mark is probably the way to go to get that damage boost. Another spell that you could consider if no one else in your party has it is Aid for raising hit point maximum. But again, we're only going to be able to use that with a 2nd level spell slot. We only have 2 2nd level spell slots, so it might not be the choice that you want to make here.
So at this point, we now have 5 levels of Ranger. We've gotten our spells, our fighting style, our extra attack, all of the goodies of being a Gloomstalker. Now it's time to switch over to the Rogue, which we're going to be going Rogue for the rest of this character's career.
Yeah, we're going Rogue. And the big draw here is that by taking rogue levels, we're getting sneak attack, which it's a valid observation that past level 5, the ranger doesn't have a lot of ways to boost their damage round over round, except for using their spells in interesting ways. So by adding the damage bonus from sneak attack, we can get a lot of damage. Now, the unfortunate thing is that you can only apply sneak attack damage once per turn, which means that you don't get to have that amazing round where you sneak attack 3 times because you made 2 attacks and got the extra attack with Dread Ambusher. but it means that it's very reliable that you're going to land that sneak attack. That extra fistful of dice is almost always going to be coming down. And once you add in Hunter's Mark into the mix, and then Sharpshooter on top of it, and the archery fighting style, I think this Ranger Rogue build really overshadows the single class Ranger and really overshadows the single class Rogue as well. It's just like the perfect mix.
Even though you're only landing one sneak attack per turn, you're still getting 3 attacks. You get advantage on those attacks because of Dread Ambusher. You get to apply the sneak attack in there as well. You're having the extra 10 points of damage on your shots thanks to Sharpshooter. It adds up that on your first round of combat, you're dishing out more damage than almost any other character in the game can. And that's really intense for this character. And we're going to amplify that even further as we build. But there's some other great rogue features that you get while you're building up this character as well. Cunning action is super valuable. Just being able to use your bonus action in interesting ways is a great addition to what the Ranger package has already offered, and just gives you more to play with.
Remember that a character gains advantage on attack rolls against another creature that cannot see them, not because they're hidden. So as a Gloomstalker, you don't need to take the hide action when you are in darkness to get advantage on your attack rolls. You are just invisible, and if a target can't see what's attacking them, the attacker gains advantage on the attack rolls, no action required. So you don't need to necessarily use cunning action to hide, unless you actually want your position to be even harder to locate, but you're going to be invisible in darkness anyways. One of the things that is really useful for cunning action, though, is dashing to bushwhack your enemies to keep them from getting up to you, or being able to move into those positions of darkness and dim light, or using the disengage to be able to run away from them without provoking opportunity attacks. So it's super useful. And of course, there's also the cunning action to aim to just give you advantage on an attack roll. If you're out of spells, if you have no other way of getting advantage, you're just going to stay put. Aim.
Yeah, the steady aim feature, which was added in Tasha's, is just a sure way that if you're not in darkness, hey, you can still get advantage if you need it. This, of course, is if you're not casting Zephyr Strike. Now, there is also expertise that you get as a rogue, so we're going to not only have the expertise that we got from the Ranger, now we have more as a rogue. But then we come to what I think is the most interesting question for this character, and that is which rogue subclass to pick. I think that almost any rogue subclass works well with this build, but we've narrowed it down to the 3 that I think stand out the most. My personal choice here would be to go with the Scout Rogue. I think that the Scout Rogue here, although maybe not your first choice that you might think of, when you actually read the abilities, it is a natural fit into the package that we're building here. The Scout Rogue has a really cool feature that as a reaction when they are approached by a target, they can move and back up away from their target. This just means that they don't need to get into melee combat. Not only that, but the Scout offers additional expertise-like features, and really, if you read through their specific features, a lot of it just gels really well with everything here. I think the Scout is my go-to option.
At the same time, it is really hard to say no to the Assassin. This is that case where the Assassinate feature, combined with Dread Ambusher, can produce jaw-dropping results, because you have advantage on attack rolls against those who haven't acted on their turn, and if you hit a surprised target, you crit them. And it's one thing for one rogue to land a sneak attack, but it's quite another thing for 3 sharpshooter shots with Hunter's Mark and the rogue sneak attack to be coming downtown against a surprise target. It is so much damage coming down on somebody that, yeah, and the Gloomstalker features really help ensure that you're going to get surprise, because we're going to have Pass Without Trace. We're going to have expertise in stealth. We're going to be invisible against creatures with dark vision. Your odds of getting surprised with this character are very high. And then being able to just blow somebody up with ranged attacks, like there's not a lot of monsters that can survive that. Like, I have seen characters with this build just one round almost anything because not a lot's going to survive 3 crits.
I think that the assassin offers an explosive first round that's going to decimate whatever target you need to on the battlefield. The scout offers a more rounded option that isn't so much focused on the first round, but just gives you something helpful in all aspects of play. So depending on which way you want to go, both are really, really compelling options. The third option, of course, is our friend Jill, who went with the Arcane Trickster. Let's ask her why she picked the Arcane Trickster and what the cool things there are.
Hi, I'm Jill Denitis. You may know me as Vey of Senya, the Tabaxi Gloomstalker Ranger Rogue from Dungeons of Drakkenheim. I am a big fan of this multiclass, knowing how much damage the hits from these skills and combos can do. Add in the amazing speed and dexterity, and you've got yourself an impressive character build. As the dudes mentioned, there's lots of great features here. Now, when it comes to subclasses, both Scout and Assassin are great picks if you want to double down on damage dealing. But thinking outside of the box, outside of combat, there's even more versatility to be gained. So let's chat about Arcane Trickster. For this build, you've already got yourself a few spells with Ranger, but why stop there? Arcane Trickster is perfect for expanding your magical abilities. It adds versatility and creative potential to your character, both in and out of combat. If you're happy with the hard hits that the skills and feats of this class provide, choosing Arcane Trickster is perfect for rounding out the utility and support you can offer as a rogue. For this subclass, you get to expand your spell list, dipping into a few options to help you mislead or evade your enemies. Choosing spells like Minor Illusion or Silent Image create distractions to help your whole party sneak around. Getting access to options on the wizarding spell list, like Find Familiar, help to boost your chances of having advantage, while providing extra utility outside of combat with things like scouting and spying. But of course, one of the most useful spells you can take, once you double down on a few levels in this class, of course, is invisibility. You may not always find the optimal dark lighting conditions needed for the Gloomstalker's umbral sight. So for all those other scenarios, this can help you be unseen just about everywhere you go. One of my favorite features, though, of Arcane Trickster is being able to mage hand, but with the added bonus of it being invisible. Picking locks, picking pockets, or disarming traps from a safe distance will give you lots of options for stealthy maneuvers. From my experience, making those high-powered hits might not always be possible in combat. You've got to be prepared to think outside the box on how to help your party. But you're also an Arcane Trickster, so don't forget to have a bit of fun making some mischief.
Now, lastly, we've taken Sharpshooter with this character, but a few other feats that you might be able to look at while you're building out this character. If you decided to play an elf or a half-elf, I think that Elven Accuracy, again, any opportunity to gain advantage with this character, or in the terms of Elven Accuracy, super advantage, as I like to call it, is just going to make sure that you're landing those sneak attacks, landing as many hits as you can with your plus 10 damage. Advantage pairs really well with Sharpshooter because you're taking that -5 penalty. So having advantage as often as possible just helps to shore up everything.
And you could take Crossbow Expert. I think that this is particularly potent if you decide to go with Variant Human, who gets Sharpshooter at level 1, Crossbow Expert at level 4, and then boost their dexterity from there, because it's letting you attack as a bonus action, and so it's just more damage all the time. It's really hard to say no to in general, and I think that probably... again, we mentioned there's no shortage of damage on this character, but with Crossbow Expert thrown into the mix, it really takes it to overdrive.
One last recommendation for feats, which probably falls after all the ones we've just mentioned, but I do think that if you didn't take the Arcane Trickster, that taking something like Fey Touched, because Misty Step and Invisibility are just going to give you even more opportunities to be where you need to be on the battlefield. Mm-hmm. Or if you don't have Darkness as your friend, Invisibility just makes sure that you're in pretty much the same boat you would have been if you were in the darkness.
Yeah.
What I think is incredible about the Commando character is that a lot of what we've talked about is how great of a damage dealer they are, and that's true. They are an excellent damage dealer, better possibly than the Rogue or the Ranger by themselves. But what's really interesting is that when you look at the Rogue, you get somebody who's excellent with skills, stealth, and infiltration. When you look at the Ranger, you get somebody who excels at exploration. So combining these elements together means that even outside of combat, when it comes to exploring the environment or breaking into the castle or finding the hidden clues, this character is going to be really good at a lot of these aspects of play. So they're not a one-trick pony. They have a lot to offer the party and can even bring some support and utility spells from either the Ranger or, if you went Arcane Trickster, Rogue options that are really going to amplify this multiclass even further. I think that this presents a well-rounded character that offers a lot more than what each of the individual classes could offer.
Because you're going to get so many expertise options through the Rogue, the Canny feature from the Ranger, and potentially even the Scout Rogue's extra features in giving you nature and survival, naturally you're going to have expertise in stealth. But if you really wanted to go that way with this character, you could flip around your intelligence and charisma, or even put a few more points in charisma, get expertise in persuasion and deception, and then realize that your character has disguise self and enhance ability, which you can use together. So you can cast disguise self on yourself, cast enhance ability for Eagle Splendor, giving you advantage on charisma checks, and then you got proficiency in an expertise in perhaps a social skill as well. So there is kind of this weird side build too for this character where you've got all this exploration and stealth damage dealing, but there is a little secret trick as well that you can pull for social interaction too if you build just a little bit differently. And that's pretty effective. It doesn't actually require your character to have a very high charisma score, because the power of just expertise and advantage will take you a lot farther than you might expect.
So this has been a look at how to play a Commando Ranger Rogue multiclass in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. If you've tried out this multiclass, tell us your thoughts on it in the comments below.
The videos that we create on our channel are made possible thanks to the incredible generosity of our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy the work that we do here on YouTube, we've got a great community on Patreon, including an exclusive Discord community that you can take part in, chat about your favorite things about the game with us and all of our other patrons. You can join by following the links in the description below.
And if you want to see Jill showing off how cool this exact build can be, you should check out our live play in the Worlds of Drakenheim, which airs Tuesday evenings on Twitch. You can find all the previous episodes right up over here.
And we got plenty more build guides, including ones that look at the Gloomstalker Ranger specifically, right up over here.
Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and ring that bell so that you're up to date on all of our content.
Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time
In the dungeon.